The day of the wedding was horrendous. It was a nightmare. He was twice my age. I was 15, he was 30. My eyes were actually bruised with me from wiping my eyes so much from the tears. I was gratefully on my period, so nothing happened on the wedding night. And it wasn't long after I got pregnant. And I took an overdose and tried to kill myself. Hi, my name is Rubie Marie. I was a child bride at the age of 15. And I was taken away to another country to get forcefully married. I am from a background of the religion Muslim, and the culture as well, the combination of it kept us quite sheltered, and there was a lot of restrictions about what a girl can do and what she can't do in the community. And it soon became quite dominant that it was led by males. After my father would finish work, he would come home with all the rest of the male cousins and uncles and etc. And they would have meetings in the house. I was oblivious. I was very naive. I didn't think much of it. And then soon my father was just blurting out here and there that we're going to go to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is my parents' homeland. I was very happy to go. We lived in a mansion which my mother and father built, but I wasn't allowed to go out of the perimeter. There was like a fence all around. And the best way that I can describe it is that I was like Princess Jasmine in Aladdin. I had to be chaperoned everywhere. And, you see in the movies that people get kidnapped for ransom. It happens there. It happens in development countries. And it was scary. My father was looking for a suitor for me. He was looking for a husband. I knew then at that point, oh my God, this is why we are here. My mom was like whispering to me saying, oh, Ruby, come here. And I was like, what? I knew there was a meeting going on, but I didn't know exactly what. There was like this stained glass window and she was pointing through it and she said, that's the guy you're going to get married to. At that moment when I first saw him, I had no idea how old he was. He looked pretty young. He had a baby face. And I thought, okay, he's probably in his teens like I was. I was 15. It wasn't until after the actual marriage, I saw some documents and it had his birth date on it and it had my birth date on. And he was twice my age. I was 15, he was 30. When I knew that this is a person I'm going to get married to, I felt nothing but numbness. I knew that obviously when I get married, he will have sex with me. And it was like as if my body already started to prepare myself for those traumas that's going to happen. From the initial moment that I saw him to the point of the actual wedding day, I had no contact with him. I didn't speak to him. I just saw him that once. I remember speaking to him on the actual wedding night. I was gratefully on my period, so nothing happened on the wedding night. And I remember him just telling me, oh, don't cry. There's no need to cry. You're married to me now. The night before the wedding as well, I was just crying my eyes. And my eyes were actually bruised with me from wiping my eyes so much from the tears. So the reasons why that I can see clearly now why my father chose him was because he had extended family that lives in the UK. He was educated. He went to university. He could speak some English. He looked young and he only lived around the corner. The day of the wedding was horrendous. It was a nightmare. I knew that he would have sex with me, which I did not want. I was only 15. I wasn't thinking about sex we didn't even have sex education in school, so I don't know what was going to happen, my uncle who lived with me did give me the pill, and he said, just take these pills every single day and you won't get pregnant. And I didn't even understand the concept of contraception pills either. Not everyone agreed with the marriage. I was raging out as well all throughout the months. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I was always daddy's girl. I loved my dad so much growing up. I had so much love for him until that day. On the wedding day, I did clock eyes with my father that one moment that I did and I saw him crying, there was tears going down his face. I know that was regret. It wasn't happiness. I knew he looked at me and I looked at him and his heart broke. But it happened. So for me, it was just like, what can I say to it? Nothing. That night, which was, such a blessing, I was on my period. I remember just falling asleep. I know he tried to touch me and I just curled up onto the side and I just didn't want to be touched at all. I was like so exhausted. And it wasn't until a couple of days after that's when the rape started. And that was continuous. When the sexual acts were happening and the rape was happening, I would take myself in my mind to the ocean. And that's what I would do. I would just go somewhere else in my brain. And because I got used to just being so disconnected and being a zombie, I just let it carry on to the extent where I didn't know who Rubie was. As I was on the contraception pill, I felt that, okay, I'm still safe. Back in those days, we had these little bun bags and I hid it in a little zipper. His sister went through all my belongings. She went through everything and she found it. She threw it on the table and she said, this is why she's not getting pregnant. And I just thought, oh no, what am I going to do now? And it wasn't long after I got pregnant. I got pregnant and it was the most horrible thing. In my head, it was like, just let them have it, let them celebrate, let them do whatever they want, play the game. But when you get home, just get an abortion. And that was my goal. So while I was experiencing the first month of the pregnancy, it came evident that there was something more wrong, going in and out of consciousness. I was bedbound. I know from my nan, bless her, she's not with us anymore. She stood by my bed, stroking my hair, singing to me. And she told me, she goes, oh, on this date, you're going home, tickets are booked. And as I sat in my room, it drew on me then. Home didn't feel like home again. And it was a couple of days after that I took an overdose because I didn't want the baby. I just didn't know how to escape. And I took an overdose and tried to kill myself. I was put on the IV and I needed the fluids. I was so frail anyway. And the next day I had a scan and I saw my daughter's heart beating and I just couldn't go through it. I thought to myself, I've got no right to take this living being that's in me away. And I made that brave choice of keeping her. A month before her due date, she actually was born. She was so tiny. She was only 3.13 pounds. She's handicapped. That's the word they used back then. She's handicapped. And I was like, what does that mean? They started to investigate as well while I was in hospital recovering from my cesarean operation. And they actually traced it all the way back to about 2 weeks before I found out I was pregnant. And they actually said, was there anybody around me that was sick? And I was like, yeah, there was. The husband was actually vomiting his head off. And then I got sick after him. I think I completely broke down then after. And I disconnected from her as well. It's like every little glimmer of hope I had was taken away from me. During the pregnancy and me having the baby, there was telephone calls happening with the husband. He would make sure that he was writing letters to the house. I was just like a robot, like, yeah, whatever, I despised him. I didn't want to speak to him. He ruined my entire life. And he ruined not just mine, the next generation, which was my daughter. I was so disconnected and thinking, oh, I've got to pay Happy Families now because sooner or later he's going to come over to the UK. There's going to be that process now of the immigration. And I didn't want it. I really didn't want it. And I, sooner or later, knocked up a relationship with somebody else. And then I soon ran away from home myself. I actually fled twice. The first time round, my family tracked me down and they persuaded the new partner's parents and said, well, you do know she's married and etc. And they explained the whole situation. They said for me to leave. So I left. When I came back to my hometown, there was this urgency of getting me to Bangladesh again. I got my baby out of the house with one Tesco bag of clothes, and I got onto the train and I came to the Midlands. When I came to the Midlands, I was at the partner's house, parents' house for a bit, and then we were just going from place to place. We didn't really have a place to live. And I soon fell into a domestic violent relationship with him. Things changed rapidly. And I ended up in a 5-year domestic violent relationship with him. And I had a son from that relationship as well. And it was like Groundhog Day. It was instead of getting raped every single day, I was getting beaten up every single day. The dysfunctional cycle did not stop. I was attracting a relationship after relationship with dysfunctional people because I was dysfunctional. I was just accepting anything that was given to me. I was chasing that fatherly love for that security. I got to 28, 29, and my leap of faith was literally getting a ticket, going to Thailand by myself. And that's what I did. I started to travel. I rekindled my relationship with my mother. I mean, my mother was always there for me in, some way or form, and she would help me out with the kids. So like once a year for 2 weeks, I'll go and explore. I made like 2 or 3 friends at that time, and they were like, oh, you're so photogenic. Why don't you go and do modeling? And then one of them bought me a makeover day. I went to a studio and I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I really started to build my confidence. I wanted to go and finish my GCSEs off. So I went to Learn Direct and started to do that. And I worked my way up to university level. And then while I had a modeling profile, I got scouted to go to the Philippines and join a pageant. And I used my titles in the pageantry to have the platform to speak to loads of women around the world about what I went through. And it became this beautiful women empowerment thing. I've reconnected with majority of my family. I think what it is that there's a shared trauma there. It didn't just happen to me. It was the ones that were witnessing it as well. There's a lot of regret. And I do feel that there is a lot of pain still there on both sides. Because with me, yes, I speak about it a lot and I'm healing through it. I will never be 100%, never. But I stand tall and I don't regret anything at all. If I had a chance to rewind and erase anything, I would say no. Because I would not be me, the version of me right now, if it wasn't for that journey. I would let it happen all over again because I'm just getting stronger and stronger.